This is one of the craziest mother-in-law stories. It comes complete with over 10 updates, and you will not believe what OP has to go through from his own mother while he's hard at work one day. I'm 36 male and my wife's 28. Been married for 4 years, together for 6, and have a 1-year-old daughter, who's the light of my life. My wife's an amazing mother and partner. My own mother, on the other hand, is absolutely ridiculous. And my wife has made me realize over time that my relationship with her is not very healthy. My mom tries to control everything, including our wedding, which I convinced my wife to suck it up and go with my mom's ideas. She's still resentful of me for doing that. Passive-aggressive behavior on my mother's part, basically since we started dating, has made my wife absolutely hate her. I'll admit, I haven't been as firm with my mom as I should have been in the past. Well, this brings up yesterday. Our wedding anniversary was last night. We're a little tight on money right now. Being new parents and our jobs, well, they're not fantastic. So I suggested that a family friend watch our daughter. I buy us a nice bottle of wine and we cook dinner and just relax. I could tell my wife was disappointed that we could not do anything bigger or better, but she agreed this was the best choice. We settled to both be home from work by 6 p.m. I was headed home from work when I got a call from my mother asking me to come over because it was an emergency. I asked what type of emergency it was, and she just started crying frantically and begging me to come over. It was already 5:30, and I live in a low-volume traffic area, so I figured I would stop by, calm my mom down before I met my wife. When I got to my mother's house, she was literally sitting on the couch having a glass of wine and watching TV. I was livid. She was so calm too, not the frantic monster I was speaking on the phone with just a little while ago. I'd started pressing about what the emergency was and reminded her that this was the night of my wedding anniversary, and she said she had some house tasks for me to do. In my opinion, she 100% capable of doing them herself. It was things like washing dishes, watering her houseplants, cleaning the gutters, etc. So definitely not emergency material. But she guilted me into doing them. She was literally screaming at me at one point that I was a bad son. I texted my wife letting her know that I was going to be late, because I was at my mom's house and she didn't even respond to the text. Before I knew it, it was 7:30. My mom kept trying to put more tasks on me before I put my foot down and let her know I need to go home. When I finally got home, my wife, well, she wasn't there. I was worried, so I texted and called her many times with no response. I was able to track her phone and found out that she was at her parents' house. Yeah, they don't live far, it's about 20 minutes away. She finally got back at 11 p.m., and as I greeted her with a glass of champagne, she told me to save it for myself because she wants a divorce. I was shocked and started breaking down. I asked her why, and she said that tonight was the final straw in a long list of things that I've always put my mother first in. She said that she expected today, of all days, to be our one time together, but even my mom's able to intervene on our wedding anniversary. I asked her what I could do, begged her to go to counseling, and she is refusing. I asked her if there's someone else. She said that someone else is herself, and that it's time for her to start working on herself and stop worrying about me being able to put my mother first. She has since moved into the guest bedroom in our house and hasn't talked to me much this morning. I tried to kiss her on the way out to drop our daughter off before work, and she just ducked out of my way. So, how do I save the sinking ship? I'm committed to doing everything for my wife to improve this, but she says that this is past fixing. I'm at a complete loss. I'm worried that she'll see or already has seen a divorce lawyer, and I'd like to stop this in its tracks before it goes too far. I flared this as a give it to me straight kind of thing, because I just need people to be as honest as possible with me right now. I know I ducked up, but I also need to know how to fix this. Hey guys, Mr. Reddito here. So this story is actually multi-updated. It has every single update from the original poster, and let me just tell you, if you think things are crazy right now with this mother-in-law, Oh boy, you haven't heard anything yet. Make sure you subscribe to the channel because I drop daily videos on all 3 of my channels, so you can check those out in the description below. Let's hop into update 1, which came out 1 day after the original post. Alright guys, so my actual second post, my first update, got removed. So this is basically what it said. When she got back from work, I knocked on the guest room door and tried to get her to come down to the kitchen and talk to me. But she was still refusing to talk about all this until she was ready. I asked her when she'd be ready and she just shut the door in my face. I keep calling and texting her and getting no response back. By the time I got down there ready to defuse the situation, it was already too late. My wife had poked the bear and my mom was laying the verbal smackdown. I asked my wife what she said to my mom. Stupid, I know, and she just went up to the guest room and slammed the door. I finally realized what was going on and asked my mom to leave, but she was refusing. Some people were commenting that me asking if it was somebody else that my wife was seeing was inappropriate. I really don't see how it was inappropriate. This morning, my wife packed her bags, a bag for my daughter, and left for her parents' house. I was surprised that she didn't even tell me beforehand. As a last-ditch effort, I asked her what I could do to fix this. She just shook her head at me, then she left. Update number 2, 18 days later. Hello, it's me again. This will probably be the last time I post on here. My wife has officially collected all her things and my daughter's things and moved back in with her parents. I did the dumbest move ever and stayed with my mom for a few days to collect my thoughts. It was dumb on a lot of levels, but I finally saw firsthand the abuse that my wife was receiving because now it was directed entirely at me. She also did some really weird things like try to snuggle me to sleep. One night, I woke up and she was snuggling with me. I had to tell her to get back to her own bed. I realized how counterintuitive it was for me to do that because I moved out one morning when she was sleeping and came back to my home. I went back through some of my responses on my first post and finally began to follow some advice. I've officially blocked my mother on everything and invested in a small home security system for my house. She's tried to show up a few times, but I've locked all our gates, and she does not have a key. I also rekeyed the doors in our home just in case. I've had 2 therapy sessions, and I stupidly thought it would be just a one-and-done type thing. In my first one, I was given some really good advice and was told that if I'm just here to save my marriage, then I look elsewhere because I also need a lot of work. That really got me thinking. My therapist, though, is fantastic too. As for my marriage, I don't know what's next. We're going through a trial separation at the moment, and she hasn't spoken to me much, except to talk about our daughter. I'm also realizing that I may have been a bad husband, but I can still be a good father to my daughter. It's still tough. I feel immense guilt over everything that happened, but not just at my wife, to my mom too. It'll take me a while to get her feelings out of my head and disentangle her from my life, but I'll admit I'm excited for this fresh start. If it doesn't work out with my wife, I can still be the best dad that I can be. Thanks guys for your help. I really appreciate it. Next update, 30 days later. Thanks everyone for your help from the other day. I've blocked my mom on all communication, and so has my wife. We can also confidently say we've got everything on lock from my in-laws' house to our pediatrician to my daughter's social security number. As for the threat, we're following through with legal proceedings with a lawyer, following my mother's threat, but my wife, daughter, and I are doing okay. Just taking it day by day, I guess. At the moment, I'm preparing for the worst from my mom. This morning, she attempted to see my wife at work. Literally just showed up and asked to see my wife. When my wife's secretary refused, my mother demanded to see her, and it got bad enough that they threatened to call the police. We're documenting everything and also looking into moving. The space from my mother would be good. I'm worried she'll come to my work next, but I've told my boss about the situation and he's pretty understanding. In the meantime, is there anything else I should do? A kind person commented and recommended we get the house CPS ready, and we're in the process of doing that. Better safe than sorry. Thanks guys one more time. It might have been a rough go-around in the beginning, but I'm starting to see the light. My mother may have come between my marriage, but I refuse to let her hurt my family any further, especially since she's trying to threaten taking my daughter away. Next update, just a few days later. Hi everyone. This will likely be my last post for the next few weeks. Nothing's wrong, but we're preparing for my wife's birthday, and since I messed up the anniversary, I really wanted to do something special. Plus, with Halloween close by, my wife and I are getting our daughter's costume ready, decorating the house, and generally just trying to do some festive fall stuff. I'm finding that I'm enjoying this time with my family a lot, without the interference of my mother. This is how it always should have been. But my mother always finds a way to work her way into what we're doing. Although we've remained no contact, she's starting to find ways to circumvent that. Hence the story below. So, I'm sure I'll have more updates after I tell you guys this. Alright, here's my next question. My mom hasn't always acted sexual towards me, but my therapist has picked up on a few red flags that started in my teens and have carried into me being a man. The first one being that the fact that my mom was snuggling me when I moved in with her for a short time. The second is that she can be touchy-feely with me in a way that I used to think was not normal for mother-son. But now I definitely know it's weird. Playing with my hair, excessively kissing my cheeks, you get the point. One time she pinched my butt when she came and visited my daughter and told me to, quote, "Give her a piece of that, sugar." At our wedding, she wore an extremely revealing dress, at least it wasn't white, and tried to get me to dance suggestively with her on the dance floor. I thankfully realized what was going on and did not go for it. I'm just rambling at this point. What I'm trying to say is that she did something not too long ago that takes the cake. While I was at work, I got an email from someone I did not recognize, and it got tagged as an external server, since we use Outlook. Which isn't unusual since sometimes people will email and call about services. Plus, the subject line in the email said, "Inquiry." I could see a bit of the body copying asking about the types of service we offer. Well, to my surprise, this was a bait and switch. I opened the email to see the body copy. But underneath it, there were about 4 pictures of my mother. Topless, with a caption under each one that says, "Where's my sweet boy?" This was definitely an email from my mom. I don't get sick often, but I started shaking and then had to go to the bathroom to throw up. Why on earth would she think this was acceptable? Something to do, I'll never figure it out. But it began to register to me that she had just sent me a topless photo through my work computer, and also through my work's internet. I'm thinking this was likely done on purpose to get me in trouble. Anyways, I forwarded the email directly to our lawyer and blocked the new email address from my work and personal email. I then went to talk to my boss about it. He knows about my mom and her antics, and he said that he received an email from the same address regarding me being unprofessional on a site a few days ago. So yeah, I think this was a setup. My boss thankfully is understanding of the situation, or I guess as understanding as a boss could be, and just deleted the email from my mom and let me get back to work. Did I do the right thing here? Also, I'm worried that my mom's having some sort of mental breakdown. Not worried for her, but for myself, my wife, and my daughter. My therapist calls it escalation. If I got nude photos, I can't even imagine what's next. Is it time to call Adult Protection Services? Any advice would be appreciated. Update 14 days later. My wife's birthday's this weekend, so we're about to go off-grid. Thought I'd update you on the situation before we hightail it to the nature. Nothing crazy has happened, thankfully, besides a few unmarked letters in the mail to both me and my wife, which we've made photocopies of for our personal records, and then sent them straight to the lawyer. Also, after speaking with my boss about the photos that were sent from her, I've also decided to go to the police with this awful photos that my mother sent me. Still, no grandparent right papers yet, thankfully. Not sure if it'll ever happen, but it's better to be safe than sorry. Some people have recommended that we get our house CPS ready just in case. We've got that handled now in case it ever gets to that. Lastly, we're serious about moving and considering viewing homes and apartments next week. However, my wife is still adamant that she does not want to jump ahead and assume we'll stay together after this boils over. If we purchase or rent together and then decide to divorce or legally separate, that would bind us to a living situation that I don't think would be good for anyone involved, including our daughter. I respect her decision, although it's not ideal. I agree that we need to maybe let this settle and revisit the trial separation at a later date. So, things are slowing down a bit. I'm happy that things are returning a bit to normal. It's still a rough road ahead, and I'm working on myself and my family every single day. Next update, 14 days later. So, my mother showed up at my house in a frenzy. Thanks for the suggestions for the lock on our front gate and the ring. They've been super helpful up to this point and especially helpful now. Anyways, my mom shows up at her home unannounced and screaming, crying for me, saying how she just needs me. She's crying, banging on our front gate, demanding to speak to me. If this were the old me, I would have let her in, and to be honest, I almost did. But the new me decided to call the police. When they came, the police immediately told her to leave our property. It took a few minutes, but then she finally left. I don't feel good about this. She's my mom. I feel obligated to speak to her, but she has also been terrible to me and my wife. I'm going to try to get some sleep and do my best, but I've got a lot of thinking to do, and maybe some more to share with my therapist. Next update, 6 days later. Well, my mom hasn't stopped sending us letters, but the biggest change is now that she sends some of them through the post office instead of dropping them off in our mailbox. And they now also come with her address on the envelope. I don't know why she's made this change, but it does make it, quote, easier for our lawyer to have verifiable proof that she's sending us the stuff. My wife sends her letter directly to our lawyer. It's always the same BS. How terrible my wife is, how she's a blank, how she hopes our daughter doesn't grow up and treat her like how I treat my mom. The only reason I opened up the letter is because the envelope was thick and it looked like there were pieces of fuzz coming out of it or something. I open it to find several locks of hair and a letter that basically boiled down to, "Look what you've done to me." I took this to believe that my mother had some sort of mental breakdown and cut off most of her hair. Some of the hair was short and rough, which my wife believes undeniably is pubic hair. Which, if that's true, I'll excuse myself to go throw up. The letter also had what looked like drops of either red paint or dried blood on the corners. I'm sending all this to my lawyer, but I immediately called the police to do a wellness check on my mom. At first, what she was doing was just annoying. Now, this is veering into what I believe to be self-harm territory. I'm not sure if she's going through an actual mental breakdown or just looking to seek attention, but it's better to be safe than sorry. She's still human, so she's a human being. And even if she's crazy, I still want her safe. I'm starting to lose hope. Every time I think this is kind of over, my mom ramps up the craziness again. I'm pretty sure the only way out of this is if I file a restraining order or if, well, she passes away. I don't see this going away anytime soon. I know it's only been about 3 months since the onset, but I don't know if I can go the rest of my life living like this. I now understand how my wife feels. I think a restraining order is definitely the next step. Next update, 17 days later. I thought I'd give a quick update on my mother. Without going into too much detail, she drove to our house one evening and had a psychotic breakdown in front of our home that involved self-harm. It was enough for us to call the police, again, and she's now spending time at a mental facility. That's all I'll speak on that matter. With grandparents' rights not really on the horizon anymore, my wife has approached me and said she still wants the trial separation and the divorce. She feels like these last 2 months or so, we've been playing house in order to keep up good looks in case my mother decides to pull something, and that she's put up with crazy for too long. This is starting to impact her own mental health, so she's moved herself and our daughter back in with her parents for the time being, and wants to speak about other options with our lawyer on Monday. So I guess we'll start the process soon. I can't say I'm not disappointed, but I also can't blame her. I asked her if all the bad really outweighed the good, and she gave me the most stern look and said, "Our relationship has been almost nothing but bad." And then she walked away. I've been doing a lot of thinking, and I know these things I need to bring up to my therapist. Thanks, guys, for listening. All right, next update 30 days later. My wife and I decided to go through with the trial separation. She and our daughter at her parents' house for the time being while I'm at our home. It's almost our most awful feeling ever, and I've never been this empty before. Divorce, well, it's coming. I guess I should start calling her my ex-wife in these posts. I'm continuing with counseling so I can go or work through not just my personal feelings, but also what the next steps are going to be. I've always wanted to move out of state and maybe try out a new career, but I don't want to be far from my daughter. We'll see how it goes. I'd also like a big ol' thanks for all your well wishes on my last post. I tried to respond to all of them, but I really just couldn't. I break down crying every time I see support. They're happy tears, but they're also a reminder of what could have been. Final update, 30 days later. Ex-wife has informed me she's going to begin dating other people. I guess I should have seen it coming, but I almost wish she had not told me. She said that it was more of a heads up in case I see her out and about on weekends or something. We're separated, so it's not against the rules for her to date or anything, and we're in a no-fault state for the divorce that's inevitably coming our way. I'm not in a place emotionally where I'm ready to date. I'm not even close. But hearing that she'll be meeting up with an old flame for dinner next weekend rocked me to the core. It means I really can't get her back. I did try one last time and, well, it didn't go well. She said she's done with coming second to my mother and now second to the drama that's been going on in our life, and that she doesn't want to raise our daughter in an unhealthy environment. I understand. Well, guys, that was a tough one to get through. That mother-in-law is definitely off her rocker. Let's go ahead and read one of the comments that got a lot of attention. It says, so, to sum it up, this woman, his mother, is abusive and has groomed him since his teenage years, likely with the intent of breaking him down at some point and then stepping in to, quote, comfort him. His wife absolutely made the right choice, but I'll be damned if I'm not so sad for this man and what he's been through. I'm glad he's recognized it now and is taking steps to better himself, and that his mother's receiving care somewhere far away from him. So let me know. What would you have done if you were in OP's position and your entire life was crumbling to pieces, your wife was leaving you, all because of your mother? Drop your comments down below, guys. Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you want to see more stories like this, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.